morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to talk about Wally again. Because you see, yesterday, I told you that Wally done gone been banned. And then it got unbanned. I mean, it got banned a while ago. Yesterday, it was announced that it was unbanned. And this is kind of cool. Now, Wally was banned on, well, I made my video on July the 22nd, 2018, so we're talking like July 2018 that it was banned. And crucially, what hadn't happened at that stage was that we hadn't had the Sword and Shield trading card game expansion. That wasn't released until February 2020, almost 2 years later. What that means is we have never had a format where both Wally and VMAXs have been legal at the same time. Wally had rotated out of standard, it had been banned and expanded. There was nothing to be done, essentially. But you see, now Wally's back in expanded, and now we do have VMAXs. So we need to ask whether this is going to end up being a bit of a problem. Now, for those of you that have forgotten, Wally says, search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX, and put it onto that Pokemon, shuffle your deck afterwards. You can use this card during your first turn, or on a Pokemon that was put into play this turn. Now, as a side note before we get going here, a bunch of people have said, aha! It says you can use it on your first turn. That means that you can use it to get a turn 1 Trevenant. No, you can't. Firstly, the ban or the unban specifically referred to the change in the first turn supporter rule. You can't play supporters turn 1 going first. As a reason we could unban it. Secondly, the lovely Kyle Pugasukovic did tweet out yesterday that that's not how it works. Now, to be fair, a tweet from Kyle is not an official ruling, but dude knows his stuff. Thirdly, the lovely David Hockman has looked at the Japanese wording of the card, which, as we would expect, only actually refers to the evolution, i.e. you can evolve a card that you shouldn't really be able to, not using it turn 1. So no, I mean, we will get a ruling on this officially within the next few weeks, one would imagine, but no, you can't actually use it turn 1 going first. And if you could use it turn 1 going first, then our discussion would largely be centered around Galarian Weezing and Trevenant. Trevenant blocks items, Galarian Weezing blocks abilities, and you would essentially use those two cards to just have some really unfun games. But it doesn't, and both of those have Pokemon with Ascension that, for a single energy, let you evolve up turn 1 going second, so it's active and there by the time your opponent gets to their first turn, or their second turn, first proper turn. So that's not an issue, we're not talking about that. But the thing is, Wally is one of those cards that refers specifically to Pokemon EX, not Pokemon V. And Pokemon V Maxes evolve from Pokemon V. So yes, if you are playing in the expanded format, and you go second, you can evolve into a Pokemon VMAX, turn 1, going second, which is the turn with the first attack. And that is huge. Your opponent gets 1 turn when they're not allowed to attack and they're not allowed to play a supporter, and then you can have a Pokemon VMAX ready and attacking and raring to go. So I went and sat down and looked at every Pokemon VMAX this morning, and I'm basically here with a little bit of a list of Pokemon VMAX that could end up being a little bit broken under these circumstances. Bearing in mind, in the expanded format, they might have banned Shaymin, but we can still use Crobat, and we can still use Dedenne. There are so many good drawing options we've got in expanded that you can have a monster first turn without having to use a supporter card, so this could actually work. Now, my first thought here, because I'm an absolute sucker for fighting Pokemon, was Colossal VMAX. What we're really looking for here is Pokemon that we can use. So, if I've got a 3 or 4 energy attack, I'm not looking to use this, alright? It's not something I'm into. But Colossal for a single fighting energy does 40 damage, discarding the top card of your deck, But if it's an energy card, you do 130 and attach that energy to this Pokemon. Well, we know we've got Oranguru that lets you swap a card in your hand for the top card of your deck, and that's a basic. So, turn 1, you shouldn't have much of an issue getting the energy on top of your deck. So if you play a Wally, you get a Colossal into play, and then turn 1 130 on a 330 HP Pokemon, and then of course you've got a second energy on there ready to use G-Max Boulder in the future. Tell me that might not be a little bit of a problem. It absolutely could. That is a lot of damage to use turn 1. I mean, a Pokemon that sees a lot of play, and one we are going to talk about in a moment, is Snorlax V/V Max. And this will get a one-hit KO on a Snorlax V or V Max straight away. And it will get a one-hit KO on a Dedenne or a Crobat. It will get a one-hit KO on the majority of single-prize Pokemon. You are going, I believe strongly, if you're playing an expanded, you've got to be playing around with Wally into Colossal to do a whole bunch of damage. And actually, while we're here, it's worth noting, even if you're not using this turn 1 going second to get a giant start, etc., this still opens up cool situations where Colossal doesn't have, this Colossal V, does not have a single energy attack. So if your opponent knocks out your only Colossal V Max, you're basically stalling for a turn. Here you can go Colossal, Wally, Energy, Eruption Shot. That's pretty good. Now, I mentioned it a moment ago, but the other one that really comes to mind here for me is Snorlax V Max. Now, I did tell you that having 3 or 4 energy is going to make me not want to look at this, but do remember that Snorlax is an evolved Pokemon, 3 colorless energy, so we've got triple acceleration energy here. And the thing is that Snorlax in Expanded is a way better card because we've got Skyfield. Snorlax does 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. So rather than having 5 bench Pokemon, well, and 60 base. So rather than having 5 bench Pokemon and doing 150 plus 60 and maxing out at 210, you can have 8 bench Pokemon and max out at 300. So if you Wally into a Snorlax, fill your bench, again, you'll be using Crobat to Dedenne, you'll be drawing cards while you do it, and then get a triple acceleration energy on, you could do a turn 1 300 with Snorlax. And the only things that can take a hit of 300 damage are VMAXs. But if you go second, your opponent does not have any VMAXs on the field. So Snorlax, if this works, if you can make a fast enough, consistent enough deck, will literally one-hit KO anything. Now, they're my top 2 choices, right? It's Colossal and Snorlax. They are the ones that I really do think benefit the most from Wally. But there are a few others, and we're kind of, well, there's a couple of categories, right? So the first category is less impressive single energy attackers. So Salamence VMAX. Single colorless energy, 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So essentially what you do here is you get up into a Salamence turn 1, and then you start spreading a bunch of damage around. Now, the thing is that Salamence V Max does 40 to 2 Pokemon, but Salamence V could already, using Welder and your attachment for the turn, start doing 30 to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So, as much as I like the idea of the V Max here, I don't know if I'm going to use it. Similarly, in Teleon VMAX, we've got Hydro Snipe, 60 damage, put an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. And I like this, it's kind of cool, but I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to really want to rely on Wally for this. We've already got an attack for a single energy that can do 40 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's a free energy attack you're building up to. So although we can use both Salamence VMAX and Inteleon VMAX, I'm not loving them as much as I could, shall we say. Now, the second category only has 1 Pokemon in, and that's, hey, let's use those abilities. Because actually, Orbeetle VMAX works kind of nicely here. Now, the ability here, Eerie Beam, if it's active, you may put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. And obviously, the faster you get an Orbeetle out, the faster you can start spreading that damage around and doing Yo Fang. So you know what? This seems like a really interesting thing that you could go and do quite nicely here. And that leads me on to my final category. And that is if you flip heads on Turbo Patch. Now, I've kind of left this till the end because you've got to flip heads on Turbo Patch here and things are getting a little bit awkward. Actually, it's not, we'll get there are other options. Like Orbeetle's got a colourless energy in, so you could use Tapu Koko Prism Star to get a lightning energy on, and that would be your colourless. Also, don't forget that we're in the expanded format, so it doesn't have to be Turbo Patch. It could be a Max Elixir here. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck. If any of them are basic energy, attach it to a bench basic Pokemon. Also worth bearing in mind, Max Elixir, you have to be bench. Turbo Patch, you don't. But both of them work on basic Pokemon, so you have to do this before you play Wally into the VMAX, or else they will be turned off. You've been warned. If you're using Max Elixir, don't forget that you can use Oranguru to put an energy on top of your deck to guarantee that you will hit it. So these are more awkward, but they can work. And now Orbeetle, all of a sudden, is doing, minimum 50 damage, plus spreading around. But what about Eternatus? Now, Eternatus I like a lot here, because we've got Dark Patch. In Expanded Dark Patch, you've got a rather nice item card that attaches a Darkness energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Darkness Pokemon. It's Turbo Patch, but it only goes to the bench. But you don't have to flip ahead, which is kind of big. And we're asking a lot here. We're asking for getting an energy in a discard. We're asking for the Dark Patch. We're asking for the Wally. Dark Patch, remember, can be attached to an evolved Pokemon, so the ordering of that at least can be however you like, which makes it easier. But you need the energy in the discard, the Dark Patch, the Wally. The other thing about Eternatus is it gives you 8 bench spaces, which is awesome, but it limits you to Darkness Pokemon, which is Crobat. And Crobat's limited to once during your turn, so you cannot both Crobat and Dedenne like all the other ones can. But then you're potentially, if you get a full bench, doing a turn 1 270, so it's definitely worth having a little bit of a play with. Centiskorch is another one here. Now, Centiskorch would have to use Turbo Patch. Of course, there is no Welder on the same turn as a Wally, but 2 energy, 40 damage, plus 40 more for each fire energy on there. But if you do any damage, you get to then attach another energy from the discard. So if you can hit 1 Turbo Patch, and if you can hit more, you do more damage. But if you can hit 1 Turbo Patch plus your attachment for the turn, that's 120. Plus then you're attaching an extra energy ready for next turn. That could be kind of fun. Maybe we also see the return of Dragapult here. Now again, there's no extra trick, so you're talking Max Elixir or Turbo Patch. The same as we saw with Centiskorch. But if you can hit 1 extra energy, your Wally, get the 2 energy on there. Remember, Max Elixir and Turbo Patch must be pre-Wally. And then you do 130 to the active, plus popping 5 damage counters on your opponent's bench in any way you like. Try and avoid Eternatus because of the whole hitting you for weakness thing. But turn 1 Dragapult VMAX hitting good damage. Tell me that doesn't sound just a little bit appealing. And the last one is a kind of fun option for me. It's Togekiss VMAX. Now, 2 colourless energy here, so we can use Turbo Patch or Max Elixir before evolution. We can use Tapu Koko. We can use Triple Acceleration energy. Of course, that would be a stupid idea because it's expanded. So we can use double colourless energy, which can be attached to anyone, including this. And if you get this rolling with a double colourless energy, you do 120, and then you can search any 2 cards and put them into your hand. So you go second, do 120 damage, search out any 2 cards ready for next turn. And the whole point of this video is we can start looking at some of these VMAXs, and all of a sudden going second, getting them turn 1 is actually a genuine possibility. I mean, Colossal is a single energy attacker, Togekiss can use double colourless energy, and Snorlax can use triple acceleration energy. All of those, if you're playing a fast enough deck, you need to hit Wally and the energy. All of those should be genuinely, legitimately doable, which is kind of ridiculous. You are then looking at some slightly more awkward ones. I love the idea of Centiskorch and Dragapult. They're the other 2 I really like off this list. But for both of them, you've got to basically hit a turbo, because they're not even colourless energy, so you've got to hit the Turbo Patch or Max Elixir before you hit the Wally, which is an awkward thing to do. But tell me you don't want to go second and have a turn 1 Center Scorch hitting 120 and only getting bigger. Tell me you don't want to go second and have a turn 1 Dragapult hitting the active while spreading to the bench. I'll probably call you a liar. So no, Wally isn't going to lock you turn 1 with Trevenant or Galarian Weezing. But if you want to play hyper-aggressive Pokemon VMAXs, Wally just might be your man. But now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think this is viable? Do you think it's going to work? Do you think people are going to try and use Wally to break Pokemon VMAXs? Or do you think it's still going to be a little bit awkward? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.